What is radical heart wisdom? What's the wisdom of the heart, right? As opposed to the wisdom of the mind. Because it's not the kind of decision making we get from the mind. That is the psychological mind. But then there's this other sense that just knows. It's instinctive. It's intuitive. What heart wisdom feels like to me, it's a reaching for an action or a decision or a choice or anything, but it's reaching beyond one's own best interest, right? My own personal interest. It's reaching to a place that's very selfless. Mary has a question, which is, I'll take that up. I hadn't even thought about that. That's the title for the show, isn't it? What is radical heart wisdom? What's the wisdom of the heart, right? As opposed to the wisdom of the mind. I think what I was talking about, that sense of just an intuitive knowing, to me, that's it. And it has a really beautiful flavor to it, because it's not the kind of decision making we get from the mind. That is the psychological mind. Right? I guess I'll talk a little bit more about what more pure mind is in a minute. There's thought processes and conditions we examine and logic that we go through to arrive at a particular decision about things when we're using our trained minds, right? But then there's this other sense that just knows. It's instinctive, it's intuitive. And it has a feeling about it. What heart wisdom feels like to me is that it is a reaching. It's a reaching for an action or a decision or a choice or anything, but it's reaching beyond one's own best interest, right? My own personal interest. It's reaching to a place that's very selfless. Right? Now, it's not that can actually get misconstrued. And you can have people always denying themselves in service to others, thinking that that's the right way to be. It turns out that is really just those of us who were traumatized enough to learn that the only way to survive was to deny their own needs and take care of somebody else. Right? It was always about somebody else, so that there was never a balance or flow between my needs and the needs of my, predominantly my caregivers. As children, we're wired to be taken care of. There's nothing wrong with it. Children are not selfish. That's actually, I think Freud ended up trying to blame the child for things. The bundle of desires and the like. We're wired to be taken care of. We expect to be taken care of. And the parents should be doing that job. And little by little, the child learns independence, self-sufficiency, as well as interdependence and group sufficiency in this beautiful balance when it's done correctly. If that doesn't happen, it's a real shock to the system. It's a major league trauma, because you're supposed to, the child expects it. I watch it in my granddaughters now. One's 2, he's just turned 7. And watching it happen, right? Total dependency, total vulnerability, and more independence, more and more taking care of herself. Everything now. Baba, I'm going to do it. I can do it. We got to do that. I know how to do that. Stepping into that. But again, something happened to she's crying, and Right? So it's this beautiful thing that very naturally happens. That's heart wisdom. Right? That's that sense of simply knowing. Now, the reason it's radical is because we've gotten disconnected from it. We trust our minds. We trust processes. We trust authorities. We defer to the scholars and academics, or people in power, or people that carry some kind of weight within the society. We defer to them. And the further a culture gets away from its natural roots, from the heart, the worse that that authority is going to be. And so, for the longest time, I, when I got into the metaphysics of it, I was really trying to be a purist. It's all mind. If you look at the various New Thought churches, A Course in Miracles and the like, it really is a focus on the mind. Metaphysics, manifestation, law of attraction, it's all focused on the mind. And thinking correctly, and lining up your thoughts correctly, and aligning your emotions with your thoughts, and vice versa, making yourself feel better, right? And that's a very mental way to approach it. You're going to make yourself feel better. It's a very mental way of approaching it. Whereas the heart simply acknowledges its own needs. It's that simple. It acknowledges your own needs. Recognizes your humanness. Doesn't try to transcend it. Right? Boy, did I get in trouble trying to transcend it rather than embracing the humanness. I so wish I had learned about Buddhism so much earlier. It would have helped enormously. Because in Buddhism, they have it beautifully balanced between the non-dual, the focus on it's nothing but mind, and the heart, the path of the bodhisattva, which is the ideal of Buddhism. It is this beautiful flow in between. And when we're in a world that has gotten increasingly mental and materialistic and egoistic, relying on your intuition, your instincts, your heart is radical. Quite radical, quite revolutionary. I mean, if you look at children, or you look at your pets, it's not radical at all. It's just the way they are. Right? But this is the evolution that the sense of self has gone through, and had to go through, and is still going through, to come to consciously come to the point where the dance between the heart and the head is fluid and flowing, that they really merge into one. You don't hear, you hear the word heart in Zen and the like more lately, simply because it's coming to the West. It recognized that whereas traditionally heart and mind were not separate, they saw it as one whole. It was there was the consciousness of being, and then there was the feeling of being. They were both aspects of consciousness. Whereas in the West, we've got this schism, and the heart gets associated with sentimentality and romanticism and that sort of thing. It gets reduced to emotion, right? And then mind, separate from the heart, ends up being very cold, precise, scientific, objective, and all of that. And it's a total disconnect between what in fact is flow.